Hi everyone, it's Tony Richards and welcome to the Life Focus. I want to talk with you today about hearing the Master's voice. You know, John tells us in John 10 verses 3 through 5, and I'm going to paraphrase, that the sheep will listen to the voice of their master. The sheep will follow because they know the voice of their master. They know the voice of their leader. They will not follow another master or another leader because that is not the voice that they were trained to hear and to understand. So I want to ask this question. What about you and your leadership? Do your people know your voice of leadership? Will they follow because they were properly trained and respect their leader? You see, too many people go from church to church or job to job and are confused by the leadership differences and never really know their true leader's voice. It still bothers me when I talk with people and they say, well, you know, Pastor, I get up and I go to this church and then I go to this church and sometimes I visit 2 or 3 churches on a Sunday. Is there anything wrong with that? And I say, no, there's really nothing wrong with it. But Freeman, the question that I have for them is, how are you being trained? Because the different churches you go to, the different pastors have a different vision. And so you might be getting conflicting messages within your own mind because you're not sitting under one master, one leader. You're going and hopping from place to place, and your enemy loves to confuse you, and that's a great way to do it. People hop from job to job, and they say, well, my leader just doesn't understand me. The company doesn't get it right. Well, maybe you haven't given it enough time for them to get it right. So I want you to be careful about that. Be careful. Because, you know, the other question I have is, does your family know the voice of your leadership? Is it through abuse and scare tactics? Or is it through love and nurturing? And yeah, at times reprimanding. You see, to find your voice as a leader is to create a compelling and unique leadership brand. You are you. No one else is like you. God created you uniquely for you and your leadership. Don't try to be somebody else. Don't try to be a carbon copy. Those things never are as good as the original. You see, how do I develop my voice as a leader? Well, Mary, you do this by, 1, discovering your critical leadership values. What are your values in life? What is it that you will just say, you know what, I stake this in the ground right here and I will not bend on this? And leaders need to do that as well. And it's not always policy and procedure. Sometimes it's moral ethics and a conscience that says, I can't do this. So what are your critical leadership values? And I've said this before, and I honestly believe it. You don't have to have the title of leader, or you don't have to have people under you to be a leader. Everybody is a leader. Number 2, do you create a compelling vision to get the outcomes you desire and you need? Not just at work, but in your life too. What's your vision for your life? I'm not asking you what you want to do in life. I'm asking you, what is your vision? And I'm getting very personal here. Your vision. When you take all the noise and all the clutter and forget the money, forget everything else, forget coronavirus, forget all of that. What is your vision for you? You see, if we don't know that, we're going to be confused. Number 3, want to build relationships with influence and credibility. Influence in a good way. You want people to remember you in a positive way. This is a person who had influence. Influence to say, you know what, let me step aside, let me take a step back, and let me help you succeed. Great leaders do that all the time. The credibility will come with it. Be honest, be trustworthy, be legal, be loyal. I always tell people when they say, I have a question, I have a business that I want to do, and I'd like your opinion on this, or could you help me with this? I always say three things. Is it legal? Is it moral? Is it ethical? And if it is, let's talk. But if it's not, I don't want to hear about it. Number 4, are you making decisions that reveal your courage to take a stand and to take action? People want their leaders to take action and to take a stand and not be wishy-washy. This coronavirus has given people the opportunity to see leaders of all levels, of not only government, but community as well, and to see what they're really like. A lot of times, your character, your leadership character, comes out in a crisis. And number 5, are you communicating your overall expression to create a lasting legacy? How do you want to be remembered as a leader? Again, not a leader of policies and procedures and organizations, but how do you want to be remembered as a person who could lead, no matter what the situation is? So let me ask you 2 more questions. Number 1, how do you define your leadership values? How do you define them personally? And then number 2, once you've defined them, I want you to ask this question. Would others say the same thing about me? Would they define me in the same terms? If yes, that's beautiful. If not, maybe you need to look about and think about your leadership and the voice that you're creating. The life focus for today is your voice as a leader will be understood and clearly followed only after you have taken the time to teach, to train, to love, to reprimand, to guide, and no matter what, to be there for your sheep to know the voice of their leader. If not, they'll go blindly with anyone. Write me at TonyRichardsSpeaking@gmail.com. Check out my website at TonyRichards.net. I know people have been writing and saying, hey, you've been putting on Facebook the last 4 or 5 days the books that you've been written or the books that you co-authored in that. And I've done that for a reason, is because this week we're unveiling my very first novel. My very first novel's coming out, and we'll talk about that in the next couple of days. So I appreciate everyone. I thank you. God bless you. And please write me, TonyRichardsSpeaking@gmail.com. And remember your leadership voice. It's important. Because when you've clearly defined the voice, then you've clearly defined the path and the opportunity and the way to go forward.